Me okay? Great. I think we'll start off with some introductions just around who we are and what we do. I'll start and then I'll hand it over to Lynn. My name is Taylor Caforio. I am a customer success professional in SaaS. So if you don't know what that means, it means software as a service, of course. Right now, I'm at a small, teeny, itsy bitsy little startup out of San Fran called Deep Source. It's a dev tool. Went through YC. Like think like 15 people at the moment. Before that, I was at Datto here in Boston, which is a security SaaS tool. So I was there for 4 years doing customer success as well. In both roles, I was working with enterprise and strategic customers. And I guess, yeah, Lynn, I'll head over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm Lynn Zagami. I am the Vice President of Customer Success for Private Markets at Fidelity. Up until January, I was the head of customer success at Shoebox, which is a equity management B2B software for startups of all shapes and sizes. We were acquired by Fidelity in January, and I currently lead a team of 10 people who sit between support and customer success or account management.
Great. My name is Jen. Jen Moy. I'm the head of support at Elios Health. It's a behavioral health tech startup. Also SaaS-based B2C company. And so we help clinicians complete their progress notes a lot faster and documentation in time. Before that, I was also working at another startup, building the support team at a company called HQO, which is commercial real estate. And then prior to that, I worked at TripAdvisor for several years. Doing support and customer relations.
Awesome. Great. I think it'd be pertinent to jump into a overview of customer success, and then I'll hand it over to Jen for overview of support, because it's kind of ambiguous. So basically, with the SaaS model, I guess we'll call it like 15 years ago until it took off, came customer success, because obviously reoccurring revenue is super important. So to make sure you understand the growth and renewals and have somebody to own that's kind of what birthed the customer success team. Definitely different from support, as we know, which we'll go over. But basically, the customer success teams nowadays can do a lot of different things. They can actually be coding. They can be handling growth and renewals like I do. They can be handling just renewals. It also can be known as account management in some companies, but it's basically the new age way to make sure revenue doesn't leave and it grows at your company, which is everything in a high growth SaaS startup and eventually IPO'd company. Lynn, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the evolution is really important. I think, I've led customer success, client service teams into B2B SaaS startups in my career. And the first one, my title was Director of Client Service. This was, 2010-ish. And by the time that the Shoebox founders and I started talking about me joining the team, that was a head of customer success role. And I think it really is coming from the place of realizing that it is far more financially efficient for customers to tell the world about your product and bring in new customers that way than it is for marketing to go out and spend money on new customer acquisition. And so there's been, a really huge shift into focusing on not only retaining the revenue that comes from existing customers, but also growing it and creating evangelists from those people.
Awesome. Jen, let's go over support, and we can start to delineate between the two.
Yeah, so support as we know it. If you have an issue, you contact us and we get it resolved for you as soon as possible. And like how it kind of interacts actually really strongly with success is that we're part of that retention process for a lot of your customers. We bring additional value to you as an additional service that you can, charge for, to have your customers, have their voice be supported, have their issues resolved quicker. To have a good customer experience means that you're going to have customers. And it's also going to help you in the long run when they recommend your product to other people as well. So it's about keeping the customers happy. It's about keeping the dollars coming in. We work very closely together in our line of work. And the way support has shifted too nowadays, because we have so many tech industries, in addition to coding, how you were saying before, there is a really strong need to have a technical background. A lot of our products too are really high touch. And so to serve the audience who are less familiar, we are there to hold their hands. So
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting roles coming out of support and success, like at Databricks and Stripe. I'm seeing technical support or success and support, obviously, but success members or roles that are actually requiring SQL, requiring Python. So it's evolving, and success support's been a thing for a little bit, but success is definitely still evolving. Let's talk about how we can get into these roles and from where. I know success specifically. I came from product. I was at an even tinier startup out of MIT before I was here, or before I got into success, and I was doing product management. And I didn't know what success was. I didn't have no idea. And then I talked to someone and went right into it because I love talking to customers. So I personally came from product. Lynn, where did you come from before?
I'm actually a corporate lawyer. So, yeah. So basically, both of the startups where I've run client service organizations were either legal tech or sort of a hybrid between legal and fintech, as is the case with the Shoebox platform. I was an attorney representing startups in financings, corporate governance activities, M&A, formation, and sort of that launch process. Realized I did not like lawyering very much. I really liked working with our clients. And in particular, with my last firm, we were actually able to create a role that was part client service, part marketing, part business development. And the time that I would spend with our clients was in more of a sort of consulting, advising capacity. And I would hear a lot from them about how there was just this fundamental break in the relationships that they had with their outside counsel around, you're holding onto my documents. I have to email you to get a copy of my cap table. There's no place for us to collaborate on things that we're doing, like option grants or employment agreements or things like that, which is basically the core of the Shoebox platform. And that was sort of my entree into that particular company. But I think, stepping back and looking at the work that I did as an attorney, really enjoying building relationships with our clients, helping them be successful, and knowing that there was a huge gap in the technology that corporate lawyers in particular were using with their clients, just sort of naturally led to both of the roles that I've had in, client service, customer success startups roles.
How I got into support, honestly, it was my first job out of college. I started out with a staffing agency, PSG here in Boston, and it got me the role at TripAdvisor, actually. And so it was a good way to get my foot into the door, get started. It also was great too, because I told them before, I really love travel, and they were like, well, we have this one account here. Have you heard of TripAdvisor? So it was an easy way to segue. And so, that was really my way in. And before that, though, I studied psych in college. So I was like, I'll try to figure out a way how to use this degree. And I feel like it has really.
Did the recruiters suggest support to you, or did you ask them to do that?
I didn't. Well, they asked me oh, hey, what are you looking into? We really serve more like support and services, jobs or assignments. And so I said, well, I like people. I like working with people. At that time, I had a lot of background with face-to-face support and services. I was working at the aquarium doing events. So thousands of people a day. I was like, okay, I'll give it a try sitting behind a computer. But I really stayed in support because I love interacting with customers and clients and giving them a very delightful experience, because I know they don't really want to contact support because they have an issue. They're not happy. And so I was trying to make a way to, change their day around. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of people and friends who came from sales to success. Definitely product to success. And the big similarity between support and success is just like you need to love talking to people. You almost work for the customer. I view my job at both DeepSource and Datto I was like a project manager for the customer. I just happened to like work in a Datto office, which sounds silly, but it's a great way to look at things. And I guess let's jump into differences now, like be more specific between success and support, because it is a big thing that people call success support and vice versa, and it's very cringy and not great. So we want to clear that up. But there probably are some questions that you guys have around that. So basically, with success, as I mentioned, I'm owning myself personally in my job right now. To add specific context, I'm owning renewals, I'm owning upsell, I'm owning any initial conversation that has to do with anything with the customer. So if there's an issue, I'm the first point of contact. Obviously, if it's a technical issue, I'm going to get it to my engineers, but everything goes through me. Everything goes through success. And so I am owning the success literally from day one after the sales handoff to the renewal, 12 months, or if it's a longer contract, 5 years later. I'm owning that success to make them continue. Because when Oracle was in the early 90s or in the early 2000s selling software, it was like there was no success. It was like you're going to buy the software for 5 or 10 years and that's what it's going to be. There's no recurring revenue, but the cloud created SaaS. And so it's all around just success is like you need to be able to make sure you're on top of your game with your customers and always understand what's going on. And of course, you got to be a people person and understand the value. You got to kind of be a product expert. You got to kind of sell, especially if you're doing growth. And obviously, so that is different than support. Lynn, if you want to add anything for leadership context as well.
I mean, we talk about this a lot. So since our acquisition, I think we've hired 3 customer success managers. And in those conversations, we're always, first off, explaining, well, what is this job, right? We're never hiring people who, or we have not historically hired people who were brand new to customer success. So when I say to them, okay, we're going to get a handoff from sales, you're going to take somebody through onboarding, you're going to go through what we call post onboarding, right? Their first few actions on the platform, shortening that time to value as much as possible. You're going to go into check-ins. We do those at least quarterly based on what the client is doing, sort of those company milestones, and then renewals. That's sort of a typical customer success arc. But where we've seen team members either succeed or not succeed, the folks who are successful understand that customer success is not relationship management, right? And I come at this from a place where lawyers do relationship management, bankers do relationship management, right? There's no technology platform that people have to understand and use effectively and feel like is delivering value to their organization. There's just do I like this person? Do I trust them? If I've got a project, do I want to go to them? That's relationship management. Customer success isn't about, are you likable? Are you good at conversation and remembering this person's dog's name or when their kids are graduating from high school? It's how are they using whatever system you're working in? Are they having an okay time with it? Do they feel like it's worth the $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 that they paid for it? When you train them on things, are they getting it? Do they have other people in their organization that prefer a different system from one of your competitors? Or any of the myriad things that can go wrong when somebody is engaging with a software platform. That's really the heart of customer success. And it does have this element of paranoia to it, right? We should be afraid of losing that revenue. We should be afraid of those clients churning. And part of the way we prevent that is not letting clients out of our sight, understanding completely what they're doing, what their company is doing, how their experience on the platform is going, and ensuring that any issues there are resolved promptly.
Yeah, it's there is fear involved. I'm comped on my customers renewing, and I'm comped on them upselling, and so it's hugely important. And with leadership, it's even more important because you're even more directly responsible than I am when things go wrong. Yeah, so Jen, if you want to talk about maybe your day to day with support, so we can start to separate them in in the
Sure.
audience's minds.
Of
Hopefully, we
course.
are doing that.
Well, I just want to add one thing too to like the success and how like listening to both of you speak and also my experiences working with CSMs. It's all about ownership. it's your account, it's your baby, you know the ins and outs of it, you know when to like push the gas or, brakes and stuff. Like it's very operational. And that's yeah, the value that you give for their return on investment is huge. And so ROI is big.
Yeah. It used to be like the engineers, or it kind of it still is, like the engineers are the most valuable thing at a tech company. Kind of still is, but honestly, like there's nothing more valuable to a founder. Any founders in the room, by the way? Okay. Oh, cool. Cool. There's nothing more valuable to a founder and the investors of that founder than growth and revenue and reoccurring revenue and that whole motion of metrics. And to do that, you need NRR and you need GRR. And you need to grow that. That's net revenue retention. We can go over that stuff if you want. And the customer success team owns that directly. And so one can make the argument that now it's starting to be like customer success is almost, I'm biased, almost like taking the product team like in terms of significance. Is that all you wanted to add for support? Maybe talk about your day-to-day. That'd be
My
cool.
day-to-day? Okay,
Yeah.
what's it like in support?
Yeah.
Yes, my world. So my day is filled with tickets. People who come in, either it's like an issue like, hey, I need help learning this product. I was just trained recently, but I've already forgotten, to things like I can't even get into my account or the product crashed, which is like every tech company's nightmare. That's a 911. So, I'm handling a lot of different things too. So like happy people, really unhappy people, really, really unhappy people, like escalated issues. So I have to be very versed in a lot of different audiences. But yeah, my days spread out between resolving tickets, reporting bugs to our engineering and product team, running like weekly triage meetings, especially to make sure things are prioritized correctly and that we're going at the right pace. And then collecting product feedback. So a lot of customers, they'll usually like leave a survey of like, oh, how was the support you received? Did you like our product? Would you recommend our product to other people? Which ties in actually with NPS. Very important, Net Promoter Score. And then also because I'm like head of my department, like I'm finding gaps where there is, building processes, implementing them, documenting them. As a startup, that's probably the first thing I would recommend is start documenting. Everything lives in your head because you're running at really full speed, but you gotta slow down or write it down so it can like repeat it again. But yeah, I think that's really most of my day in training.
In terms of career starting, if anybody's interested, it's, I guess you jump into support at an L1 role, right? You're not going to jump right to L3. And if you want to go over those as well.
Yeah. So like the different levels, like you start out as an agent, very basic support representative, agent. Those are usually the names. Then you move up and you handle like more escalated things or more technical level things. That's called like maybe L2 or tier 2. Is how we have it. We have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 would be customer support, so anything that can be handled at a support level. Tier 2 moves up to engineering because they need to do more development work. And then tier 3, that's like ultimate DevOps. That's like the infrastructure. That's a big issue usually. Right. But yeah, no, my world usually is between tier 1 and tier 2. Because my team is split too. So like half the team is in Israel and I'm in the US. I've had to learn a bit of engineering skills and tools in order to support like the hours when they're off.
SQL?
A little bit.
A little bit of SQL?
Yeah, a little bit coding, a little bit debugging. Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, L3s, in my experience, are awesome. They're a rare breed because they need to be technically proficient, and they also need to interface with customers almost in the day-to-day, which, as you can imagine, is not something that's abundant in those two roles. So yeah, I think we can transition to work-life balance, which I know, Jen, you're very, you love to talk about and you're passionate about. I myself am a workaholic, so it's something I got to work on. but I enjoy being a workaholic, so maybe I don't. But Jen, let's jump into how you manage, because both support and success is tough. Because I mean, I'm slacking customers at maybe 9 p.m. and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So
I'm not.
right.
Support hours. We have set hours like 9 to 5.
Mm.
You know, we advertise it. And so that way that gives me structure. And so I appreciate structure and being like, I'm only working for this amount of hours. And then afterwards, like I'm offline. So that's how I create work-life balance is blocking off my calendar, letting people know when I'm available and when I'm not. Also, like, you know, the nature of the work that we're doing, it's a lot of front-facing, customer-facing, emotional work. So you really do have to give yourself that time to just shut down, take care of yourself, you know, go for a walk, and then, you know, come back when you're ready. So that's how I create work-life balance is just being like really communicative about like when you're available, when you're not, and also prioritizing yourself because you really can't do your job unless you take care of yourself.
Right. Lynn?
I love that you talked about how it's emotional work. Because I think it is. I think if you're doing it well, you do have that ownership that you mentioned. And if you are in a startup, there is just not one of the best and the worst things about startups is that there's no room for weak links. There's no room for people who are not committed to the mission. And every single person is walking in every day knowing, wow, there's an excellent chance we're going to fail and we're going to do it anyway. And so there is a teamwork element that you simply don't have in larger, more stable organizations. I don't love the way a lot of questions are asked when we talk about work-life balance. I think it sort of gives this idea that, okay, my day should be equally divided among all of the things, and every day should have the blocks, and then the blocks should be even from day to day and things like that. I don't think that's realistic. Frankly, I also object to the fact that we ask women this question left and right. We never ask men. And I don't try to make any day balanced. I try to have a sort of evening out over time, whether that's a week or a month or a year, where there are days that I am like a rock star parent. Those days I'm not as good at my job. There are days when I am killing it at work and I am a shitty parent. Or, you know, whatever other sort of roles I play in life, like, you know, sister, athlete, friend, blah, blah, blah. I think doing this work, I try to work closely with my team on a lot of the things that you mentioned, Jen, like giving yourself space in your calendar, in your day to do the things that come out of a lot of the interactions that we have, right? You come off of a client call, you need to like send them a follow-up email or anything else. Time for breaks, time for focusing on things, not engaging on evenings and weekends unless with our team you're on call. So we have support hours from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. and we actually rotate 1 week shifts where somebody is watching our tickets come in between 6 and 8 p.m. and over the weekends. Every single person on my team does that. And so we have like a 10-week rotation. So you know, very rarely comes up. It's fine. It's not my favorite week, but we do it. When, you know, we try to have people step away unless they are on calls so that they are not feeling like, oh, I need to be responding to my customers whenever they write, that there is some element of balance. And also, you know, we're not a product that is saving anybody's life, right? Like no one is bleeding from like option grants not getting executed. So having a healthy sort of communication relationship with our clients, I think is also really important. We have really aggressive SLAs on our support side. We're way more responsive and way more helpful than any of our competitors. And we know that like our CSAT data is like through the roof, but we're also we have hundreds of clients. And that each of our CSMs has many clients to take care of. So this idea that like any one of us could be on sort of retainer is nuts. And I try to work with our CSMs to establish those boundaries and make sure that they're balancing being helpful and supportive and effectively managing their accounts with not going overboard in a way that's going to be unrealistic to the client and hurtful for them.
That's very healthy. Personally, I have I can work on this. I give my largest customers my phone number. We have actually a Slack group and DM with all our customers. So if a customer DMs me, I'm attempting to look at my phone right away and get back to them, whether like I will get a ticket going right when I can or like acknowledge it. But that's all hours and sometimes weekends, and they make great points. If I want to play devil's advocate, they might, if I'm not on the weekends, if I'm not on evenings, they might go to another product or SaaS that is, and that's scary and fearful because there's tons of products out there and there's tons of founders willing to do some crazy things for their customers to make it not so. But I would probably lean towards, if you're thinking about success and support, maybe not going to the crazy companies that might do this and lean more towards the ones, because it's built in a lot of companies' cultures. I'm assuming it's both of yours.
Absolutely.
Mine right at the moment doesn't have a culture because we're so small. So that's maybe why I'm doing what I'm doing. But you can definitely start to think about when you're applying or if you're looking to move to another in support of success, like what the company, they're pretty upfront with their culture in most companies. So and then I know we talked about support getting started. We can talk about success as well. And Lynn, add something if I miss it. But basically, and this is how I started in success. And success as well. In success, you start off as a CSA, a customer success associate. Basically, that's taking care of the small customers that are paying like $10 a month or something, or SMBs like $100 a month. It just matters how things are structured. It's usually SMB enterprise, SMB mid-market enterprise / strategic / they call it different things. And then you become a CSM after that. You could go right to CSM. I usually see CSA, CSM, and then maybe mid-market CSM, and then maybe enterprise CSM, and then maybe principal CSM, and then you can go to manage. You can manage a team of CSMs. You can manage a team of managers, and then be a head of CS or director. And then it all depends on how big the company is, because obviously I'm like head of CS at my company right now. I'm doing like everything. But I'm really not. I'm like technically not. So yeah, do you want to add anything to that, like career path?
Yeah, I mean, we organize our clients by sort of their size and stage. Most of our very early stage customers are taken care of by one person, and it looks a little bit different from like an SMB kind of role. It's almost more community marketing, because we've tried to do a lot of nurturing of those people, a lot of like self-service activities, a lot of sort of product education that they can access or that we're serving up to them, so that there isn't as much hand-to-hand combat. Because I think as soon as you have that one-to-one relationship where you've got, okay, I have my 50 clients that I'm taking care of, and you're managing a relationship with each of them, right? There's a cost to that time. And if you've got a company that's paying, $500 a year or something pretty insignificant in terms of the overall business, you have to find ways to serve them that are more cost effective and figure out who are the ones that have the potential to grow. If you are in an organization where, like we are, companies can start early stage, they can grow with us. Like we have companies who went from incorporation to exit on our platform. And we treated them very differently when they were like very early stage than we did when they were, Series C, D, et cetera. So thinking about ways that you can both be efficient with the smaller clients, but then also give them a reason to stick with you as they grow and become bigger accounts. That's something where there's a lot of great opportunity for collaboration with your marketing team, with product marketing, if that's a thing within your organization. And for that sort of CS type person to get a little bit more creative as well.
We can talk about PLG too. That's a buzzword nowadays, product-led growth. With that, there's either community success that's automated, or there's like digital success managers who nurture, or even sales teams that nurture, like Notion does this, Airtable does this, that nurture free accounts. And I'm actually doing this as well. So if someone signs up for free, maybe 2 users, and they're on a trial, and oh my God, it's Stripe, right? We want Stripe as that can turn into an AE closing a $1 million a year deal. We're gonna try to either grow that account with a CSM or CSA by giving them maybe content, nurturing them with like helping them with it, whatever, hopping on a call even, and maybe it goes to 5, maybe it goes to 15, and then maybe we finally get a call with this AE and they nurture that deal into an actual enterprise deal. So PLG is something that's blowing up right now as well. It kind of was started, I guess, in like the 2015, 14, but it's really like being focused on as well a lot now. Okay, data. So let's talk about qualitative and quantitative data. Jen, we can start with you and what data you look at in support in qualitative and quantitative both.
Yeah. So in support, we're measured on metrics like other teams too, and KPIs. So our things that we're measuring on are like CSAT. How satisfied are you with the service that you received from Jen? Was your issue resolved? And would you recommend, this product to a colleague or a friend? And so, in addition to that, you guys had mentioned SLAs, service level agreements. So these are like contractual amounts of time that we have agreed, with our customer, like, to respond within an hour, to get a bug, crushed within 12 hours, or a business day response or that sort of thing. So like
for the product.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, uptime for product, downtime for product as well. So it's just really like time to communication. And that is so important because that is such value. Because as a customer, you've reached out to support. The best experience you've had was someone who was there instantly, right? Not someone who was waiting maybe an hour or 2 later when you've already forgotten about your issue and you're not as invested. We're speed metrics, quality of service, how empathetic are we, like even that's a measurement as well, because that is part of like the customer experience. So if you can imagine any part of a customer and their journey, that is a data point that we look into.
What does a bad support rep look like?
Yeah.
What does a bad support rep look like?
A bad support rep?
Yeah.
Oh my God, if they pronounced your name wrong, they spelled it wrong.
Time to message back, all that
Time
stuff.
to message back. Oh, they didn't understand your issue. I think that's the number one thing, is like they didn't understand what I was saying. Their help was not supportive. They sent me a help article instead of like getting support that I actually really needed. And so there's a way to, it's an art to try to understand who your customer is. And it's good to always get feedback. Honestly, don't be afraid of feedback. And also, if you ask for feedback, know how to take it. Don't say, yeah, just give me feedback. And then when someone else does give you feedback, you're like, no, you're closing yourself off from growth.
Yeah, the feedback that matters is bad feedback. Definitely. So Lynn, let's talk about the wonderful world of NRR and all those beautiful metrics that I'm sure you're tracking.
Yeah, I mean, so we track CSAT. That's a big one for our team as well. We look at first response times. We look at NPS lives a little bit more with product for us, but
Really?
we do
Okay.
collect it
Got
in app. With our we track one-touch tickets too, because I think that this cannot be overstressed. This idea that when we're interacting with a client who's come to us with a question, did we make that person engage in a conversation that was longer than it needed to be? Meaning, were there 6 emails going back and forth? Because most of our support comes in through email. Or could we have done it in 3? Right? How were there things that we could have said instead of, can you tell me more about that? We said, it sounds like you're asking about X. If that's the case, here is the Y advice that we would provide. We try to shorten that time frame quite a bit. And with our customer success managers, there's basics. There's how fast are we getting people through onboarding? How positive is the experience for them? Are we effectively getting them through their post onboarding tasks, and how long does that take? And with our platform, we actually literally today, we could not have timed this panel better, switched from pricing being solely based on security holders, like how many people are on your cap table, which is an indicator of company growth, to a combination of security holders and feature-based selling. Literally, it launched like while I was walking over here. So what we have done historically is looked at our revenue growth as more of, can we keep this person with us as the company grows, right? Because if this happens a lot in platforms like ours, where a company raises a Series A, they have a new investor on their cap table, and that investor has preferences for how they receive information from the company, right? And they say, okay, cool, we want you to be on this system instead of Shoebox, right? Can we keep that company through that event and through that growth? And that's how the revenue grows with us. Or did an event like that lead to churn? That's really crappy.
So are you comping CSMs on cross-sell now?
No, we're actually not.
Okay,
So my CSMs are salary based.
got it. And
Yeah.
then so who's owning that cross-sell to the next feature? Or is it just
So
Pillage?
it's actually, if we have a client that passes from one sort of segment into another, we might switch CSMs, or we might keep them together if they've got a solid relationship and they're working effectively. We have flexibility over that. But we might, as they grow, move them from a CSM who takes care of companies that are between seed and like what I call A+ stage, to somebody who focuses on Series B to D companies.
Okay.
So we might do something like that. But we are certainly watching renewal rates, both dollar value and how many like raw numbers of companies. If we've got 50 companies up for renewal in a given month, how many of them are coming through the door and staying with us?
Logo churn.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah. And we watch that for each segment that we have, or each like pricing tier, because those are different,
Yeah.
particularly with the very early stage companies.
Yep.
They just go out of business more.
Yep. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of which, like I wanted to add on to an earlier thing that you'd said, but this is about data too. So how support and success really interact with each other as well is like how my customer, right? Lynn's customer, how many issues did their customers report? How many bugs did we have to open and crush? Because these are statistics that are also going to be important for their QBR meetings, their quarterly meetings, which again highlight the value and the that they purchased from this product. Like how quickly, how many issues we have as a product, how quickly we get them resolved, and give that story to the customer. So
Yeah. That's a QBR conversation. QBR, and we know what QBR is, quarterly business reviews. Again, Success's goal is to get value to the customer. I think the new statistic is customers that buy SaaS expect the value in 6 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's scary being a CSM. So what I've done at my company, what every CS leadership should do is outline the first 30 days. Implementation right after the sales handoff needs to be completely successful. Understand how many seats, in my case, it's developers, how many developers are going to be needed for the customer's rollout plan, what the rollout plan is, who's going to be involved, CTOs, CISOs, all those people need to be. I even send out mutual success plans for the rollout, because that first 30 days, pretty much, if that's successful, then they're going to renew everything after. So that dictates everything. And then just to go ahead.
I was going to say something about it. It's not data per se, but I think it falls more in the category of information, but it is really important. I think it's something that we've baked into our organization is transparency between the customer success managers and support. So, and we say this to clients, that every single one of our customer success managers can see every support ticket. We're all in Zendesk, which is the platform that we use, which is very common. Everybody's also in HubSpot, which is our CRM, right? So at any point, we could have a person who does support day to day on call on a Saturday afternoon have access to every single email, call record, etc., that is living in HubSpot that we've tracked, and every support ticket that a customer has filed over the years. Same thing with the CSMs. They can see everything that is coming in. And because, I mean, we're still a relatively small team, right? 10 people, we can still function in a Slack channel, or since our acquisition Teams, which RIP Slack, I know, it's tricky, but we're getting there. Where people can swoop in and say, hey, I see that so-and-so asked a question in support about this. I was on a call with them last week where they were talking about this, and here's what we did, and this is clearly a follow-up. I think that adds value to that client relationship in a way that a lot of companies underestimate. And it can be tricky as companies get really, really big. But if you have the luxury of being a smaller team, and if you have the luxury of the technologies that you can make available to people so people can self-serve and see that information, your clients feel it.
Yeah, I agree too. I've definitely jumped on client calls with the CSM, whether it was a training or a biweekly or weekly sync, and they see the value of having another support person there because, right, I'm giving them live support, which is great on the spot. I can fix their issue and they're delighted, and it's a great productive meeting. Everyone's happy. So there's so much value in the relationship that we have with each other because, like, you're owning your customer. I'm there to support you and the customer and the company as well. So, yeah.
Questions? I think we're ready for questions. Right there in the back. Hi.
I am very curious to hear about your. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Yep.
I am curious to hear your opinion on how AI is going to affect your space, specifically chatbots, and whether that can save you time or is a poor replacement for a real human or not.
Ooh.
I have a
got that.
perspective, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take that on. Because I'm currently the only support person, head of support at my company, serving thousands of activated users, I have figured out how to use AI to leverage for low headcount. So the support that I give right now is chat support. We use Intercom. A lot of these chat software tools now have like AI bots, you know, like Amazon was like the first one who probably got that down. But yeah, like creating workflows to like quickly resolve issues or serve customers. It gives them like it's great because it's instant support. It's really quick. Two, it'll get them to the right like help articles or things that they needed, or it'll help triage like issues that we need to know about, like if there's a crash or anything. So AI, it's helpful. It's also like we use that as a component of our like tech piece because we use it's a transcription bot, so it has to read in on the conversation. But yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of talk about that and like how it might replace people's jobs. Here's the thing. There's a difference between like artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence. And there was an article on that. Yeah, I see your nods. So artificial intelligence, it's really at the end of the day, it replaces a human. Augmented intelligence is, it helps humans, it just supports humans so that your job can be more effective. It doesn't mean that there's no human aspect. It's just you're more efficient because you have additional help and data now.
Yeah, I envision companies being able to like train LLMs on their docs. Like Stripe's docs are amazing. They're very comprehensive. If they added the feature where they trained an LLM on their docs and then open a little chatbot, maybe, or text box in their app, in their web app, and then just users can type things in and just it can action things. So there's a lot of things that can happen. I don't think it's going to replace support. I don't think it's going to probably not replace success. There's nothing really software even can do to replace success. But if you get behind the hype, there's some cool things for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't deployed tools in that realm per se, and I think part of the reason is that we've spent a lot of time over the last like year, 2 years in particular, working on usability in the app itself, B, developing really good self-service educational materials and making those more visible. So if you're in your Shoebox account, our knowledge base is like front and center on the dashboard, and you can get to it, and it's extremely robust. And Zendesk has kind of different levels of, yes, you can do a chatbot and you can deploy their AI tools. And I think part of the reason they do that and why they're good at it is because they have so many B2C companies. Being a B2B brand with a complex product where most of our support is like, pretty darn in the weeds. We have not deployed that in that capacity, but what we do is sort of a front line to make it easier for our customers to get to our self-help resources. So that by the time they are coming to us, it's actually substantive stuff that a human needs to deal with.
Any
We
other
have some questions online too.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So start off, do you guys recommend that any customer success professionals take up any coding skills or even low code, no code coding skills?
Yeah, definitely. I would say like basic Python, basic SQL there's a lot of roles at companies like Databricks and data-based and dev tool-based SaaS products that are actually looking for CSMs who know a little bit of SQL to actually action things themselves for the customers. And some roles are actually called technical customer success managers now, which is brand new. So if you want to go that route where you're customer facing but are kind of technical, then that's definitely an avenue.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a requirement certainly for our CSMs. Our support folks do run like simple admin scripts in our admin interface. That's a newer development. Frankly, I think where I've seen most of this is in resumes that I've gotten for CSM positions. And unfortunately, those folks are not a great fit for the things that we're doing. But I think it does tell us that this is something that companies are pursuing and that they find useful based on what their platform does and who their customers are.
And actually kind of doubling down on that. I know I'm not a CSM, but seeing like the types of CSMs I've worked with are the ones who really know the product and are very technical. Sorry, that is a successful CSM. I want to make sure. I have worked with CSMs that are great with relationships, great with C-suite people, building those, have no freaking clue what our product is. And I'm like, really? Like people are coming to you with questions. You're the first person that they'll ask. You don't know how to use this? That is a flag. But yeah, the more that you can expand your skills, especially because a lot of these jobs are tech-based, get into tech language, learn it. So, yeah.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, I just had a question. I'm the finance guy, so I have to work with you guys a lot since you're dealing with renewals. So my question is, how do I remind your guys that you work for me, not the customer? And we talk about the relationship management, and these are your babies, you know.
Are you okay, can you like repeat the question? Did you guys understand?
How do I remind the AMs that they work for the company, that they work for me?
I see. Right.
Not the customer.
I mean, I think, frankly, that's a little bit more black and white than it probably actually is in practice, right? Do we work for the company? Absolutely. Is it our job to protect revenue? Absolutely. Are we also the front line for the company where if there's feedback that clients or customers are sharing that's important for our product team to know, or there are technical issues that people are encountering more frequently than usual that our development team needs to know, we're also that person. Like we are the information superhighway between the company and our customers. And it goes both ways. We have to be nimble. And I think that's probably what's underneath your question is that perhaps in your experience, folks have not understood sufficiently that nuance, which is, yes, this is the person writing your paychecks. These are the customers that keep all of us afloat. But at the same time, if we are not available to help customers with issues, to capture their feedback, to escalate issues when we see them, who is?
Right behind you.
All right, so back to AI question. Uh, with the bots that are usually, first ones to respond, the problem I think I have with them is that they they're not human. So me having to explain what my problem is never helpful, usually, and it directs me usually to a help um, uh, article within the company that is also not helpful, because usually I've already done my research on how to solve this problem myself because I don't want to have to deal with the customer service, So I'm coming in when I have no other avenue. So what is the problem that companies are doing where their AI is not really helpful at that point? So I'm having to skip them to get to a human.
Yeah, that comes down to how they built their workflows and how well that person handled that. Because I'm building a workflow right now for an intercom bot, and it's a lot of work. And if you don't have a really good person who knows how to, that's probably the experience that you had, was just like so hands off that they don't even want to talk to you, is probably the impression that you got. And unfortunately, like that's where some companies are thinking, because they're trying to think of like, well, where do we want to like divide the dollars in the end of the day? Because support, we don't necessarily bring in more money. We're really like an expense to the company. And so we use AI as a way to like leverage for like not having to pay for like another salary or anything like that. But like in your experience, and I'm so sorry that that was not a great one. I would not give that a positive customer experience, but it's multiple. Yeah. Was it Amazon?
Mostly
Telecommunications. Yeah. They could learn about communication for their customers, it seems like, ironically. But yeah, I mean, there's no, when we're given these tools, there's no playbook on like what's the best thing to do, to how to use this. The best thing you can do, I think, is just leave feedback, honestly, really honest feedback to companies. People in this age, like I get it, you don't want to leave a review, you don't want to leave a feedback, it's extra effort. But like, if you're going to continue using that product and the experience doesn't change, it's because we didn't hear from you, we didn't know your frustrations. And so, yes, it's going to be hard for us to hear, but that's what change and growth is. It's when we have to pivot things.
Other questions? Oh, yep, right in the back.
Oh,
Over there again. Yep.
1 second.
How much how much of the data acquisition process, especially around KPIs around, for your customer, how much of that is active versus reactive? As in the sense, do you go out to the customer and contact them and ask their opinion on it? Or is it something like a form where once they've already churned out, do you try to get the information about why that happened? Or is it both?
There's a lot of avenues. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we definitely do both. So I mentioned we use Zendesk for support tickets, and Zendesk has a built-in CSAT feature. So we close a support ticket, they can ask that customer, how satisfied were you with support? Was it good? Was it bad? Here's some comments. Same thing with NPS. We use AppQues, a Boston-based company. In app, it pops up on occasion. How likely are you to recommend this platform? Again, you can leave comments. Now that we are part of Fidelity, there will be an annual sort of survey that goes out to our clients as well, which is part of every, so we're under the workplace investing arm. Every single client of Workplace does this. We also, there's data that we get from the app, and we work with our product team to get good reporting on that. If it's not enough, we ask for more. And there's sort of anecdotal things that we're capturing too. And so there's this kind of in the moment, like, oh, I was on a client call, there's this pain point, we're going to log some customer feedback for the product team. So I think of it as like a family. Like, what is the totality of information that we want to have that tells us how well we're doing our jobs across the team? Where do we get those pieces? Is it proactive or we have to go find it? Or have we used some sort of technology tool for it? Or is it reactive and we've just built a means of capturing that where we can report on it and use it effectively?
If there are non-proactive approaches, I mean, you can like look at user activation rates and engagement, clicks, some are more like back-end data tools to see how engaged are they, are there any like fall-offs, any tapering. I don't know if that's helpful to you, but that's another way to look at it.
I do have one more question online, and I know we're coming close on time here, but Ariana Adler asks, what is the best way to stand out in the current job market if you are trying to get into the CS space, right? So she's about 2 years of CSM experience. She wants to stand out a little bit further. Maybe she's competing against some of these AI bots that are out there. It's harder for her. So what do you guys recommend someone do to stand out from the pack?
Yeah, you're not competing against AI bots, which is a good thing. Definitely not in CS. But so I would target specific companies you want to work for. And then I would target what their product is. And during the interview, learn their product in and out, which will impress the hiring manager a lot. And then just talk about the product in the actual, of course, with your experience in the actual discussion with the hiring manager. And obviously, you want to make sure that I'm not sure if you have mid-market customers in the past with your experience, SMB, enterprise, but that is obviously key in the hiring manager decision as well. So just learn the ins and outs even more of CS and the segments, the product, and they should be impressed enough. I mean, that's what I would do. Lynn.
Yeah. I mean, so we've done a bunch of hiring since our acquisition. And, I will say it is very competitive. We have an HR team and a recruiting team at Fidelity, which is great. But the last role I hired for before we became Fidelity employees, we were using LinkedIn. We had 1,200 applicants for that CSM position. About 600 of them were automatically disqualified. We look for a couple of years of experience. We look for a bachelor's degree. But still, 600 is bananas. And I think for those people who moved through the process, even if they didn't get the job and they were under serious consideration, they showed a genuine interest for what we do and who our clients are, empathy for that client base. And if they didn't have experience with our subject matter, with our technology, which equity management is a relatively new thing. It's really only the last 5 to 7 years that it's become sort of a basic thing that companies buy. You have to demonstrate an ability to learn complicated material and sort of a story about how you've done that in the past, and an eagerness and a willingness to actually do it. Because there's a lot of people out there who can say, yep, I've taken companies through onboarding. I've worked with sales. I've worked with product. I know what a QBR is. I know how to do it. I can handle a renewal conversation, blah, blah. That's table stakes at this moment. So really focusing in, even though it's oh gosh, the market is competitive, really focusing in on those companies where you can tell a compelling story about why them, and why that product and why that client base, I think is going to go a lot further than just applying to every job in town.
Yeah. And I want to say too, I think you're touching upon the skill sets, right? The empathy, the organization. The way I see a really good CSM is that they're a really good project leader. They are on top of it. And actually the different components that you and Taylor were talking about, talking with marketing, talking with product, engineering, sales, you have to be able to learn, how to talk with different stakeholders, stay organized with deadlines, ask for certain things. So, taking a project management course is going to really amplify your resume and make you stick out, because that is what is needed in that role. So.
Excellent. We are at time. So I just want to thank our panel again for taking an hour out of the day to speak with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.